The Renaissance Festival industry is in a huge state of growth, and so we need builders. Hello, my darlings. It's building season at some of the summer shows, or the fall shows rather, and let's talk about building design again. This row of shops, none of these are actually giant. They are all like 20 feet wide, right? But we've got a lot of different roof lines going on, so we've got some good visual theater. This is really pretty straightforward. It's 3 boxes in a row. Do you have some gutter connects? Yes, but there's crickets in there so that the water will not collect in the gutter. The roofing material choice is rubber slate. So it's a really good long-lasting roof. It was built as a basic box with texture and like stucco board, and then trim put on it so that it looks faux Tudor, okay? In my guide to design, I kind of explain what that is. But having this piece that steps out, both these pitches are steep, but they're slightly different pitches, which gives it a little more visual interest. And then the stained glass, always a great touch, even if you have to fake it, because on a second story, it's pretty easy to fake stained glass. Another use of the rubber slate. These are wood shingles, but what's important to know about this show is all these people have nice, really wide doorways. The show gets a lot of traffic, and people are doing their best with the challenges of some elevation change to eliminate barriers to commerce. If your doorway's too small, and I know I've talked about this before, but see here we've got 2 doorways. This is backwards, so I'm confused. If this was the only doorway, I would call that a barrier to commerce, because one person in a conversation who's pushing a stroller doesn't realize that she just shut down all the access to your shop. But this shop has 2 entrances, so one of them can be cuter, smaller, have more character, have a round top, and look like it's a hobbit hole. Got a lot of visual interest going on with the roof line, and the colors are awesome too. So wood shingles, relatively new wood shingles. Behind me now is a moccasin shop, and I know it's a moccasin shop not because there's any signs hanging yet, but way back, all the moccasin shops in the country were built in exactly this same design. And my first job at a big Renaissance festival was at the Colorado Renaissance Fair, and I was selling moccasins like 37 years ago. And that was the show where I met a carpenter, and the rest of that story is how I met my husband at the Renaissance Fair story. So I'll tell it another time. This is a good example of a booth that doesn't have a very big footprint but has a lot of character. And these windows, this is an old 6/6 window from an old house that somebody scavenged. And this one is a fake leaded glass window. They just made the window opening look like an odd shape, and it's plexiglass with silver beaded caulk on it. Right, I'm telling you all this stuff because we don't have enough builders still building Renaissance festivals. We've all aged out of walking top plates. And it's tiny little details that make a building look like a Renaissance building. It's not some huge elaborate plans. It's how steep does the pitch need to be? What kind of roof material can I use? It's really very easy. Now, as like builder to builder, you never have to build the same thing twice, unless you're moccasin people and you want to build the same thing everywhere. But it allows you to stay creative. And the Renaissance Festival industry is in a huge state of growth. And so we need builders. Find out if you're a builder and you're bored, tired of building apartment complexes and houses, and you love Renaissance fairs, call the festival nearest you and find out what it takes to get on their builders list. And they're gonna say, send us pictures of what you've done, or send us a portfolio. And to make that, sketch that stuff you wish you'd built, because everything starts as a sketch. Doesn't necessarily even start as complete plans. It starts as a sketch. So you do have something to turn in because you have built stuff and you know how to make water run downhill, and you've been to Renaissance festivals, and so you know how to make something look Renaissance. If you don't know how to make something look Renaissance, you need the Renfaire Builder's Guide to Design, which I have. There's a link in my bio. So let's go look at some more roof lines. These shops, here's a great example of the front of it needs to look super steep. And really, this side view is not really how people look at the shop at all, but they did take the time to trim it to look like it's Tudor half timbered. And then a smaller booth, but it's got some good shape to the dormer. Nice big doorways on the bottom, also easy to close up at night so you don't have to move your stock every night. This, just a gorgeous version of, you don't have to paint the heck out of everything, you can just give it some shape. And then there's a gate right next to it, and that gate goes into, this is on a circle, and there's a food shop, a series of food shops on the far side, some of which I built. And that's access for during the week to get the tractor trailers in there to unload the food. We're gonna see if we can make sense out of this. This is a stage. And instead of hanging shade cloth, they have a series of stair-stepped pergolas built in a curve. It feels much more substantial. It gives really delightful shade. You don't have the problems of, oh, now the shade cloth has started to sag and you have some seats that can't see the stage, because that happens. Also, all of the supports for this pergola are now places for plantings. Every festival should have a lot of flowers. And this soda shop behind me, this is another great example of, this is just a big box with 3 dormers on it. The pitch is steep enough to look European. The upstairs forms a bit of an overhang so that the customers who are making their decisions are out of the elements, they're out of the sun at least. And so they're already feeling refreshed on the way to buying their soda. Sorry, I'm wiggling things. And I guess if I really used this and let it stand, let's see, do we get there? We get there. But yeah, this is just a big box on stilts. Inside there's walk-in coolers to keep soda cold. But it's the trim. It's all this detailed trim and window boxes full of flowers and leaded glass and dormers that make it look European. And again, a vendor coordinator's job is making sure the booths look different enough from each other so that it feels like different individual people built those different roof lines over time. So we have one that has a nice tall tower, we have this beautiful stone and wood piece, and then we have a cute little bitty thing stuck in before this other tall shop. So I say visual theater, I'm mostly talking about roof lines and the imagined storylines as to why that building would look like that, which is sometimes related to the product sold inside it or to the character line, character story that the owner of that shop has built. So these are the things that both vendors need to think about when they're working with a carpenter to get the booth that works best for them, and builders need to think about when they're sketching stuff up. Both of you are going to have to come up with something that the festival itself is going to approve. And if you're a vendor coordinator and you're new to this building world, take yourself to some good-looking, older, established shows and just walk around and look at some of these gorgeous buildings. I am at the Maryland Renaissance Festival this week. We're about a month out from opening, so there's not a lot going on, but the flowers are already being planted and established. So there's some new roofing going on. The front gate, nice rubber, faux rubber slate, which was, you probably heard an air nailer happening while I was at the beginning of this. So that's what I have for you on building shapes today. I hope you're having a lovely day.